All right.
All right. Before today's episode, guys, quick shout out to our sponsor, Whisker Seeker Tackle. They're going to be doing a promo code for us here at Beerfish Fanatics.
All right. So Whisker Seeker's Black Friday / Cyber Monday sale is coming up, and they've prepared a promo code for our listeners. You'll be able to save $10 off of a $100 purchase on top of the sales that they're going to have going on.
So make sure you guys go to whiskerseeker.com, use the promo code TALLBOY, TALLBOY, and you will get $10 off of your $100 purchase during their Black Friday sale and their Cyber Monday sale.
Yeah, so you'll be saving money from their ongoing sale, plus another $10 if you spend over $100. So extra savings.
There you guys go. So quick shout out to Whisker Seeker. Thanks, guys. Enjoy the episode.
You guys suck.
like we swear those both are his.
Yes. All right. All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Beerfish Fanatics. This is Grandy with Ma Pop Fishing. We got
Kit with the Fishing Kit YouTube channel.
And today we are actually on site again at 1717 Brewing Company, downtown Des Moines. Once again, it was my fault. I failed. We were going to go to Peachtree and record. And, of course, they are having a big old band concert thing. So we're here.
We should just plan on coming here because it's pretty low-key compared to across the street. And we've never had an issue trying to record here.
Very true.
But we just show up, and we're ready to go.
It's all cool.
Yeah.
Good deal.
The day we do that, they're going to have something here, and then we're going to have the freaking...
Probably.
I guarantee it. But today, anyway, welcome back, Mr. Jeff Kopaska from the Iowa DNR.
Thank you.
Joining
Good to be
us.
here.
Thank you, sir.
Good to see you guys again.
Welcome.
Been a while, and we figured we haven't had the Iowa DNR just kind of see what you guys have been up to, a little bit of everything that's going on with the world of fishing and fish and fisheries and everything. So we figured to have you on, brother.
It's awesome. We got lots of stuff going on.
I'm drinking the Munich. I'm double fisting, by the way, yes. The Munich Hell's Lager. That's what I'm drinking. What do you got, Kit?
I got their Irish Red, brought back from a year ago.
There you go. Cheers, guys.
Cool, crisp, clean water.
Oh, H2O.
H2O. Can't go wrong. And don't worry, I am. See, because, guys, I still have gout. So I'm slamming a beer and drinking water at the same time. I'm chasing it with water.
Good work. Very healthy move on your part.
I wouldn't say it's healthy. It's because I just don't want to deal with the pain.
Yeah.
My brother-in-law, he was taking, because Fishing Kit's on one of our chats, and my brother-in-laws, they all have gout.
Okay.
And they keep texting pictures of their foot and their knee and their ankles. Or like, am I right?
They keep indulging themselves. So every couple of months, they'll have a flare-up.
Yeah. It's funny because usually the chat that we have is a fishing chat. We party or hang out. You share your fishing pictures. The last couple months has been nothing but feet and ankles, swollen ones.
You're a little bit sick, you know that.
It happens.
Have you ever had gout, Jeff?
I have not, and from what I hear, I'm happy about that, and I hope this continues.
Right. Same here. Knock on wood.
Because we had Hank, one of Jeff's best friends here.
Yep.
He was talking to me. He's like, you can consider it, but he's had gout, and he was telling me if I can consider taking the daily pill to, I forgot what it was called. Somebody can correct me on it, but there's a daily pill to help with the uric acid flush. And that's why he was able to eat normally, drink beers normally.
He said he never felt better after he started taking those pills.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, I was talking to my wife, and I was just like, man, but it's just the thing that you have to take it daily. And it's just like, it's a mental thing, too. I think he starts taking pills, daily. The age, it gets to you.
Yeah.
Makes you feel a little older. I don't know, man. Yeah, you don't have to worry about that. Thanks,
well,
man.
if it was that or have gout, I don't know.
It does. True that does suck, man. But now we got Jeff here. I did want to talk. So I do want to apologize. So there was a last episode. I kind of crumbed on the trout stamp a little bit. This is the reason being.
Yeah, I saw something. I didn't have a chance to listen to it yet, but I saw something about trout stamp versus hybrid striped bass
Yes.
stamp.
So okay,
You can just donate to the agency if you want.
That's kind of how I felt like what we just did. So this is the thing. So we had Ryan, one of our buddies, on, and we were just kind of talking about trout stamps. They came up, and we're like, because it was like the very first stocking, and I went out. I was excited. I didn't catch shit, and then I'm like, golly, I'm buying these trout stamps. And then Ryan was the same with me. He bought for his kid and him. Didn't catch it either. So I think we were kind of jaded that day when we recorded about the trout stamp. They were like, man, forget the damn trout stamp. This should just be a hybrid striped bass stamp. I think that's kind of where we're at.
You guys jumped from trout stamp to hybrid striped bass stamp.
Yeah.
Anyways, before we get too far, I think for our new audience, can you introduce yourself, Jeff?
My name is Jeff Kopaska, and I work for the Iowa Department of Natural Resources in the Fisheries Bureau. I'm in research, and I am the fisheries statistician or biometrician for the state of Iowa. And I have been on your podcast a few times here in the past. I do a regular podcast on KXNO with Ross Peterson. Thinking we're in the ballpark of like 75 episodes we've done. I think that we've been doing it since either 2015 or 2016, and depending on when that is, it's doing it. I think we've only missed 1 month in that time frame.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Right. And that was recent, right? That 1 month.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was earlier this year, I believe. Yes.
So you guys had a pretty good run.
We have had a good run.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to keep it up. I don't hear anything about it stopping. So
Cool. The morning shift kind of threw me off.
yeah,
And it changed shows too. I was like, wait a minute.
yes.
Like, did I just miss it, or what happened?
It was because I know Ross. So he started morning, then he went to the afternoon, and he went back to the morning now
Yep.
again.
Yep.
So, like you said, it kind of threw me off. So I'm like, what the heck was Ross doing in the mornings again?
Yep. And now since Ross is in the morning now, they're posting our monthly fishing report podcast in that morning stream instead of the Sports Fanatics stream. So that's where
Gotcha.
our podcasts are found also.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Huh. Well, I'd say cheers, but you. You cheers water. You cheers water.
you cheers water.
you
You
cheers
cheers the
water.
water. Yes.
But as I was mentioning, I was just in a jaded mood. I didn't catch trout that day. I was super excited. I knew that you guys were, because I knew you guys were stocking the fish. I was like, yeah, I'm going to catch this trout. I'm going to bring it. I told my wife too.
So where did you go?
I went to, can we name it?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it's not a big deal.
Patoka. We went to. I went
Okay.
to. I went to Patoka.
Yep.
I literally went about 3 hours after they were stopped.
Yep.
So I was like, I told my wife, I go, honey, I'm going to leave work a little bit early today from home. You got the kids real quick, I'm going to bring trout home to eat.
I'll be gone for 30 minutes. I'll be right back.
That's exactly. I was like, okay, maybe 45 minutes, right? I was like, don't worry about it, but we got it. We were going to eat trout tonight. Went there, like, man, I was struggling. I was like, and then there was one guy next to me. I was talking to him from the last podcast. It was just boiling in front of him, but I didn't want to be that guy and just cast in his spot. But he was like, every cast. I was like, that should be me. I was just, I'm like, I just couldn't get it. And then then we had the podcast the next day, and I was just a little jam. Like, golly, this trout stamp sucks. I couldn't catch anything.
So the reason I asked is that I know, so that would have been, a week ago Thursday?
I think
you
so.
went, and then we had a stocking on Friday also, and we stocked at Ada Hayden and Ames that day, and I was at that one. Also stocked Triumph Park Pond. It's the one in Waukee, by Waukee Northwest.
Yes, it is Triumph. Yep.
So the fish were supposed to be stocked at around noon that day, and there were people fishing and trying to catch the fish and everything. Well, the stocking truck didn't show up until about 1:30, so there were a lot of people not catching trout
Okay.
because there weren't any there yet.
Well, I think I was.
But
Okay.
but from the way it sounds, there were trout, you just weren't catching them.
I think so.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure there was, because it was boiling in front of the guy that was next to me, and then I didn't want. I'm not gonna lie, I inched closer and closer every fish he was catching, which was almost every other cast.
Yep.
I kept inching closer, but I just couldn't get in front of him. I mean, I didn't want to be that guy either.
So what were you using?
Just I kind of looked at what he was using. So he was like, I think he was using one of those like really super light spinner. Spinner, like a what do you call those?
Like a rooster tail.
Yeah. That's what he was using, and he was just kind of flicking it every time, really quick, super light, and it was just hitting it. It was because it was top water. It was, I mean, they literally were just boiling, and then of course it was frustrating. I was like, man, watching him do it, and I was like, I kind of waited till every time he caught one, so then I can kind of cast a little closer. I was trying to do that. It still didn't work. For some reason, it was just right in front of, like 15 feet right in front of him.
Yep.
So it was you.
I think it was me. But I was frustrated. Like I said, I took it out on the trout stand. That's why we had that. We recorded. I was like, damn, just get a hybrid striped bass stamp.
Okay. Anyway, speaking of the trout stamp, I know on the Iowa DNR's most recent podcast, you guys kind of went into the history behind the trout stockings and stuff.
Yep.
But I don't.
We did a pretty deep dive on trout.
In depth.
It was good. I liked it.
Thanks.
So has the trout stamp always been a thing? I can't recall if you guys mentioned that.
We did not mention that. The trout stamp. I remember. I'm going to say it was either late 70s or sometime in the 80s when we started the trout stamp program.
Okay.
So that was. It hasn't been certainly since the 1880s. No,
right.
It was in either the 1970s or 1980s. Maynard Reese, who was an Iowa artist and did all of the Iowa fish paintings, he was the one that did the first Iowa trout stamp. So, yeah, and I think that was, I think it was in the 80s, but I'd have to double check it. I don't have that one in the memory bank. So,
right.
Yep.
Would you happen to know why the DNR thought it was necessary to like put something like that in place?
I think it was an additional funding mechanism to try and support our trout program, because that's a dedicated thing, and at that time we had very little natural reproduction. Pretty much all the trout that were being caught anywhere were stocked.
Right.
And we've as we mentioned on that podcast, we've really improved what we do. We've done a lot of work in the watersheds to improve the habitat for those fish. So now we have a lot more of those streams where we have naturally self-sustaining either brook trout or brown trout populations, but we still raise a whole lot of fish. We raise the little brook trout for stocking in streams like we were talking about, and then all of the catchable rainbow trout, that's all funded by the trout stamp. So.
Okay.
Yep.
I didn't realize how far back the trout stockings went.
Oh, a long time.
Yeah.
1880s.
Is that kind of the oldest species that the Iowa DNR started stocking, or was there other fish that the DNR was stocking before?
I'd have to look back, but it's right there with anything else that we've done. That's I wouldn't say the DNR didn't start stocking common carp, but common carp got here at roughly the same time and were stocked,
right.
Because they're not from here. And like Mike said on that podcast, the brown trout aren't from here either, and they were stocked. That's some of that first stocking that was done also. Yeah,
they're from Scotland, right?
I think
or Scandinavia or something like that.
And Germany, all in that region is native brown trout. So yeah, Asia or Europe, Eurasia, because I think it does extend west over kind of into Russia, etc. But up in is it Baltic Peninsula, whatever, where
I couldn't tell
Norway
you.
And Sweden and Finland,
okay,
up there, yeah. So
because we recorded our podcast, and him and Ryan were kind of talking about the trout stocking stuff, and that was when the Iowa DNR's podcast came out. So we recorded our podcast, and I think we recorded on, what was it, Thursday?
Yeah, it's the Thursday when they the stock. I think it was like either that Thursday when they did the stocking, or right when I fish and suck.
Yep.
Pretty much.
And then that podcast came out on Monday, I believe.
Okay.
And then when I was listening to it, I was like, I wish we would have heard this
I know.
podcast before we went into ours.
It would have
Oh,
helped.
Because for some people, the trout stockings are kind of polarizing.
Yeah.
Some people feel that those resources could be better utilized elsewhere. But I was saying, well, that revenue wouldn't otherwise be generated. It's all going to the trout stuff anyways.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And like I was, we were talking, I was like, for the kids, it's easier to handle rainbow trout than a 4-pound wiper, 2-pound wiper without getting your hands cut, or you know what I'm saying, without the fish freaking out. Because kids, they can hold a rainbow trout really easily.
Yeah,
And
there's nothing to poke them really.
No, and I think that's the biggest draw in regards for the kids having the trout stand and catching trout. It's a lot easier to introduce them into fishing without getting scared.
No question. It's an easy species. We have this urban trout program. We target areas that are available in urban locations, community locations. There's a lot of population. Generally at a place where there's a park, there's playground, there's other equipment, there's lots of those different kinds of amenities. And we're doing that. We also generally stock twice a year, but pre-COVID and back to it now, we always try to have an event associated with one of the 2 times that we stock those fish. So we're generating excitement, getting people out there. And those kids don't have to have a trout stamp either. If you take your kids, they don't need one. You need to have one.
So I think we were asking that
Yeah,
question.
that was one of our things we were wondering. So what if a kid wanted to go out fishing, but he didn't have a parent with him?
Let's say he was 15.
They can get their own. They can get their own trout stamp.
But
because the law they don't have to have a trout stamp to possess the trout.
Okay.
But what the law states is if you are specifically targeting trout, you have to have a trout stamp.
Okay.
And as a kid, they don't have to have a fishing license.
Yeah.
If they're with an adult, they can be under that adult's license. But if they're going out by themselves and specifically targeting trout, they do need to have that trout stamp.
Okay.
So
okay.
I mean, I'm just throwing this out there. So say I'm 15 years old and I'm fishing. I don't need a license to fish, right?
I'm not a conservation officer.
And I know. But I'm targeting largemouth, and then I catch a trout. Can he keep it?
No.
Okay.
He can incidentally catch that trout. If you're throwing a big spinnerbait and it looks like there's a difference between what lure you are using.
Very true.
Okay.
Very true.
If you're using the MEPS size 0, it's really hard to convince someone that you are targeting largemouth bass.
Okay.
Right?
Very true.
I mean, this is the logic that comes into play.
Gotcha.
So, if they incidentally catch one and they're legitimately fishing for something else, they just release it.
Okay.
You can't keep it. Just release it.
Gotcha. Just wondering.
No, that's
What do they feed the trout before they release them?
little pellets. I mean, that's what they grow on is just trout feed.
Okay.
I mean, like if you were out at Adventureland and you're on the little bridge and you're gonna drop some fish feed to the bullheads.
That's what they feed on.
It's similar. It's formulated differently for trout than for catfish or bullheads or whatever, but it is a pellet like that. Now as those fish grow and as it gets time for the ones to be stocked, they wean them off of feed a little bit that last few days before they're stocked so that they are hungry when they arrive.
So I'm curious, if I were to use like those pellets as
Like
bait,
a crappie nibble?
yes, would that have helped possibly?
It's possible. In reality, most of the time, they're just going to chase something flashy.
Okay.
So what would you use, Jeff, if you were going to target these trout?
Yeah.
So I I didn't fish at Ada Hayden, but I have been trout fishing a couple times here recently. And I was throwing the little MEPS, I think it's the Aglia, whatever, but it's the size 0, and it's the single hook one that kind of has the hair and stuff tied onto it.
Oh, yeah.
But other folks, gold is generally the color that works the best on them. Other folks do rooster tails or panther martins. But it's that same inline spinner kind of deal.
Yeah.
Something that gives a little vibration, has the flash. I don't know. I was when I was fishing Coldwater Creek a couple weeks ago, because I had to go up and assist with some of our brook trout stocking efforts. And so I drove up that afternoon, and then in the evening before we went to work the next morning, I fished Coldwater. And that's a stocked system. And it was interesting. Throw that lure out there, and as you're pulling it back, you can see that rainbow trout swimming alongside, and then it decides whether it's going to go over and hit it or not.
Nice.
You know, it's just kind of, yeah, so I think it's that flash, that vibration, and I don't know, I'm not a trout expert, I'm not really a trout angler, okay, but I'm trying it out. I got my trout stamp, but I found that behavioral pattern quite interesting, that's how and it's not like, you know, a bass or whatever that boom just goes and hammers it. No, they swim alongside looking at it for a little bit before they make that decision. And I don't know if the other trout species do that or not, but just while I was observing, I could see them and how they acted in that stream, and that's what they did.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Have you ever done the trout streams up in Northeast Iowa?
I did
Randy?
it maybe about 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
I took the kids. Yeah, I think it was like 5 years ago. I took the kids. We went camping up there. It's beautiful. This is the thing.
It is.
If anybody in the Midwest, if you guys never been to Northeast Iowa, I highly recommend it. And the reason being, it's just a beautiful place to camp, take kids, family, and then like you guys are saying, like the trout fishing. It's really cool. It's surreal in a sense when you're just kind of walking the trails, and then when you're fishing the streams. How many streams do they have up there now? Like
80 some.
Jeez,
Yeah.
that's a lot. You know, it's pretty cool. I haven't fly fished yet up there. I think we might have to do that here, dude.
Here, you can try that, but let me tell you from my personal experience. I used to go up to the trout streams twice a year. A few years ago, I did that for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, maybe 4 years. I'll let you in on a little secret. Worm on a bobber, or just a worm on a plain hook on the bottom. You could throw flies till you're blue in the face, and then just put a worm on a piece of worm on a hook, throw it out, you'll get bit instantly.
Just a chunk of worm?
Yeah, a little chunk of worm, whether that's under a bobber or just plain hook with a worm.
So you telling me I should have just done that on the other day at the stocking? I probably would have hit easily.
Probably.
Dang.
At least in my experience. From the trout stockings that were earlier this year in springtime, guess what the hot bait was? Night crawler under a bobber. For me, anyways. I know there's fly fishing purists out there.
Yep.
And actually, my biggest trout I've ever caught was on a woolly bugger on a fly rod.
Nice.
But if you just want to catch fish, worms, that is the bait.
That's the bait for almost any fish.
Yeah.
A lot of fish.
Yep.
Chevy didn't work too well this year for us a couple times. We struggled.
Are you talking about
just
trying to catch wipers?
Wiper, just any fish. Dude, we were trying to catch freaking just trash fish with freaking worm that we just struck out.
For a little competition.
Yeah. Well, not even that. And then a couple times we went out on the boat, too. We're like, worms usually. This should work. It just didn't work.
Right. But yeah, if you want to catch a bunch of trout, I say just get the old classic night crawler.
Yep.
How long does the trout last? Those stocking of those trout. So I'm just wondering, like at like Patoka or whatever. How long do they normally last?
Till the water hits 70 degrees.
Okay. Really?
Yeah, they like water 70 degrees and cooler, and so we try to put, I forget if it's 10 trout per acre, something like that. I don't remember exactly what the number is, but So we stock those fish, and we love it that there are people that want to catch and release those fish. But the truth of the matter is, those are fish that we put there for people to catch and keep. You know, that's why we're doing it. We're providing something new and different. We're providing it in the late fall and in the early spring when those water temperatures are amenable. And then they're not going to last the summer. The only place they really last the summer to any great degree is at Ada Hayden in Ames, because that thing is 60 to 70 feet deep and it's cold. Okay, so they can, I'm not going to say they thrive, but they can get down to where the water's cool enough, and if there's still enough oxygen, then they can, if they see a school of shad or something like that, they can go up and get something to eat and go back down and be okay. But this past summer, like 2 summers ago, there were some guys in Ames that caught literally hundreds of trout over the course of the summer.
Wow.
And then this past summer, they caught like 1. So I think we had a little bit of, I don't know if it was a low water, not as much flow of that groundwater flow into the system, keeping it cooler. I don't know, but I know that we may have lost some of those trout that had been lasting over the summers in Ada Hayden this year. But that's not our intention, to find a place where they're going to last year after year.
Right.
That's the trout stream program. That's not what we do with this urban fishery.
Catch it, keep it, eat it. Pretty much.
Yep. That's fine.
Simple as that. And it's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. It's okay. I think we've talked about this before. You can have your own ethic. The problems come when you want someone else to ascribe to your particular ethic.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. Okay, enough trout. We're talking about trout.
Yep. There's been a lot of trout talk.
But so I saw Jeff, I think it was maybe a couple months ago, man. I don't know where you went. I kind of wanted to text you and ask you where you went. I saw these pictures. I saw him post a little bit. I'm like, all right, where did you? You don't have to tell us where, but
that's the rule that we don't say where, right?
Yeah.
That's your rule.
That is
Unless
our rule.
there's trout there.
Your rule.
But what did you do to catch all those damn crappie? Like, in those gills were amazing. Like, how did you do that? And what did you do? What was so successful?
I got on my phone and I went to the DNR Recreation Atlas.
There you go.
And I looked at where there were lakes with brush piles.
Okay.
And I took my kayak and I did paddle, 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 paddle. And I watched my little dot move on my phone till I was at the brush pile. And then I backed up a little bit and anchored, and I just started casting over top of that brush pile.
Yeah. So on the Iowa DNR's website, they literally have a GPX file.
Yes, you can download it and put it on your own personal fish finder.
Yep.
But I wasn't even. Well, I have a fish finder on my kayak, so I did confirm that I was on top of the brush pile with that. But I followed my phone because on the DNR's website we've got our fishing atlas, and we've got little dots for all the lakes, and then once you are there and you zoom in, you can see the depth contours of the lake. You can see any structures that we have, and there's a little dot, and as you move in your boat or on your kayak, or as you walk around on the ice or whatever, it shows where you are moving, and then you can end up on top of that brush pile, which is exactly what I did. Now, this is not the first time I have fished that lake or that brush pile, so okay. I had some confidence of success because I know that is a lake that produces well. Okay.
Nice. Okay.
And you can find out all of that information too on our DNR website, where we have all of our fish survey information, and you can see what lakes have good bluegill populations and what lakes have good big crappie populations. And I'm still not telling you which one it was, though.
Oh, man.
So
I was like,
you don't even need to download the GPX file. You just pull up the atlas.
Yeah, on your phone. Absolutely.
and it should just take you there, though.
Right. You have to kind of walk and look and figure it out or whatever. But yeah, I was on my kayak, and that's one of the top 5 fishing days I've had in my life.
Okay.
That was a really, really, really good day. All those crappies were 11 to 13 inches, and
Jeez, those are perfect
thick.
eaters. Man.
Well, my daughter wanted a fish fry for her birthday. So her birthday was October 7. I think I was probably out there on, the 3rd, maybe, something like that.
I think it was early October.
Yeah, and did really well. Caught, I don't know about you guys, but you kayak fish.
Yeah.
I have a fish basket, and I was kind of counting them as I was putting in, but sometimes you lose track a little bit.
Uh-oh.
Fortunately, I stopped at what I thought was 23 crappies and 20 bluegills, and it turned out that it was 24 crappies and 19 bluegills.
Oh, wow.
So I was still legal.
So, on that note, go check out CATFISHing. They have a counter. Because I was at his house the other day. Because, go check.
Oh, you put it on your rod?
No, he has a, it's kind of a string, and it has like counter. Like you can count how many fish you catch. And it's a simple mechanism. Just, if you catch a fish, you just pull it, and it fills in, and then you'll know how many fish you caught.
You know, when the fishing is really good, sometimes you just want to cast
That's
again.
true. I know, right? Right? No, I'm with you on that.
I'll tell you a story about many, many, many years ago. Like, even before I worked for the DNR, a long time ago, back in the 90s. Some buddies of mine and I would go down to Missouri and fish some 5 private farm ponds. We'd always do this in, like, April, May, maybe, some early in the year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everything's just starting to warm up and get really good. And this one buddy of mine and I, we go to this little bitty farm pond. You drive the truck and you go to the field and hike out and whatever. And took a case of beer with us.
Like you do.
Like you do sometimes. We had to walk the case of beer back to the truck with us because the fishing was so good we didn't even...
That quick.
Oh, my goodness. It
Dang.
just bam, 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 bam. And it's like, yeah. I think we did have a beer before we walked back, but I mean, we walked in with a full case of beer and we walked out with like 22.
Jeez.
And it was just like, because you were catching a fish every cast. Just, it was crazy.
I would have stayed. Just catch and release. You can do that, right?
We had a fish fry that night.
Oh,
so,
okay. Never mind.
Yeah, got fish to clean.
Sorry.
Yeah, had fish to clean that
I
night.
don't get to catch fish like that often, so I might as well take advantage whenever I can catch.
Well, if you got to go home and cook it, you got to leave at some point.
That's right.
Yeah.
Very true, man.
I think I need a refill.
I think we do need a refill. Let's do a little timeout so Fishing Kid can do a refill. We'll come back. I do want to ask, I do have some other questions I want to ask you. I'm just kind of curious.
That's cool. And there's a couple things you asked about what the DNR's up to. So there's
Yes.
a few things that I want to tell you about that we're up to, too.
Cool. Sounds good. Let's go get a refill, and then we'll come back.
Yep.
We're back, by the way, guys, if you guys haven't noticed. But I want to get this out of the way real quick because people are probably sick and tired of this. So the cheating scandal with the walleyes.
Yes.
I don't want to talk about that one. But I do want to talk about if that were to happen here in Iowa or actually anywhere, can the DNR do anything to those fellas? And when I asked that, whether, because, a lot of people are like, oh, they should take their fishing license stuff away. They should never be able to fish again. Is there anything legality-wise that let's just say the Iowa DNR can do to those gentlemen? I don't know what they're going through still yet, but I'm just wondering.
So was it one of you guys? Somebody emailed me after we talked about it on the KXNO podcast and said that none of those are catch and release tournaments. They're all harvest tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I believe so.
So it might have been one of you guys that emailed. I don't remember. So in that regard, there's nothing that they're doing physically to that fish, which would be illegal by Fish and Game law.
Okay.
Because they're stuffing something inside of it, but they have harvested that fish. So they're not doing anything more illegal than what you would be doing by filleting that fish.
Gotcha.
Taking it into your possession.
Okay.
Okay, so for that particular situation, there really isn't a fish and game violation here in the state of Iowa that we would cite them for adding weight to the fish. Now, and on our tournament side of things, what the DNR does is we approve the tournaments. Mm-hmm. We look at what the tournament sponsor wants to do, and we say, does this comply with what we will allow? So, is it a catch and release tournament like for walleyes? So in June, July, and August during the heat of the year, all walleye tournaments are catch and release because we don't want those fish in the live well. And since they have the ability to cull, then you can't be moving those fish in and out. So,
sure.
So we approve what their intended suite of actions is going to be. Okay. Now, if they break with that, then, or if they have an unapproved tournament, then we could do something about it. But this thing that was happening during the course of that tournament is not something that the DNR would cite them with a fish and game violation. Okay, so has been said a lot, it's fraud, which is not a fish and game violation. It is a it is a different type of violation. So, and there is a wildlife violator compact kind of thing amongst the states. So if you do something bad in one state, that transfers to the next state, and you can't get if you can't get a fishing license in a certain state, then all the states that agree to this compact, you can't get a hunt. And it happens more often with hunting violations than fishing violations. But there is this agreement among states. But again, what they were doing did not, from what I understand, does not constitute a fish and game violation. So that really there's not grounds for taking away their fishing license or their ability to get a fishing license, because what they were doing was criminal fraud, not a fish and wildlife violation.
For sure. If it was a catch and release tournament, would then the DNR or would be able to do something? Because
certainly yes, but again, in a catch and release tournament, it's length based generally, not weight based.
Gotcha.
So you wouldn't be shoving those weights in. And that would be the problem, is shoving those weights into an animal that you released. That
makes sense.
That would be a problem.
What if they were cutting the tails off of other fish and sewing it onto their tournament fish just to add the extra length?
Well, you so when you do a catch photo release tournament, generally you've got the board, and then you've got the fish on the board. You have to be able to see the fish's head up against the end and the tail over the line. So you're generally only holding it with a hand. Mm-hmm. So you'd have to slice it down the middle.
Right. Yeah, you put your hand over the stitching.
Yes.
Whoa, this fish is abnormally long.
I just had to ask. I know everybody's so sick and tired, and I'm just wondering because there were some people who were like, they should just take their license away. I go, I just don't think you can.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Since it's not a fish and wildlife violation.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
For sure.
That makes sense.
But it still sucks, whatever they did. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that's the reason that I don't fish in fishing tournaments, because that's just not I don't get enjoyment out of that. I like if you and I are out fishing and we beer at the bar after we're done, kind of thing. Where I want to compete is still playing softball or golf or whatever. It's just never, when I'm out fishing, it's between me and the fish. That's my competition.
I agree with that.
That's just me. Again, it's one of those ethic things. It's not my bag to, do tournament fishing. That doesn't mean that I don't, go to tournaments, because I have for my job and things like that. But, it's just not my thing. But that's cool. It's other people's thing, and let them do it. It's cool.
Did you guys get a lot of response after that happened?
Not too much. I sent an email out to all of our bass tournament sponsors because we have way more bass tournaments than walleye tournaments. And we know from measuring, I think it's like 100,000 bass over the last 20 years, that how much a bass of X length should weigh in the state of Iowa. So I'm going to put together like a cheat sheet for our tournament sponsors that, okay, if you have a bass like this, it should normally weigh this, it could weigh this. If it weighs above this, there's probably an issue.
I like that. So it's a cheat sheet for the tournament directors. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Now, could somebody be like, oh, well, it weighs this. If I put just these two little extra, you can't. If people going to cheat, they're going to cheat. Whatever.
Very true.
Right.
You know.
Speaking of those tournaments, so does the DNR collect any data from the tournaments?
We do some of our tournaments. It's up to our local biologists. So we do have reports requested from a number of tournaments, and most of those are honored. Our tournament sponsors reply and give us data, and some of our staff then do look at that to see what's being caught. Because, just as an example, anglers generally are much more successful at catching larger fish than our sampling does. A lot of the times, those, like, let's say a big bass in Big Creek is going to be down on some of those stumps in deeper water, and our shocking gear only goes down about 6 feet. We do not, we effectively sample a portion of the population, but some of that population, especially those bigger fish, live in places that we don't really have great access to. Similarly, if we are out doing shocking on the Des Moines River or a smaller river, those big flatheads generally are down underneath a big log jam, and we are not effective. You know, we may shock them and they may get stunned, but they're so far down deep in that habitat that it's not going to swim up, you know, to where we can capture it and take measurements and stuff off of it. So anglers generally can catch fish that we don't see in our surveys, just because a lot of the times those bigger fish are in areas of the water body that are not super accessible to our sampling equipment. So it doesn't surprise us when anglers catch bigger fish than what we show on our surveys.
Right.
Because especially those larger predator fish, those bigger walleyes, those bigger largemouth bass, those bigger muskies and flatheads and things like that.
Yeah.
Our sampling equipment does a great job for the majority of the population, but there are certain, you know, individuals in the population that we don't effectively sample.
Right. So speaking of the sampling, was there any sampling done this fall? Or is that yet to happen, or has it happened?
It's pretty much all happened by now.
Okay.
We've finished our fall sampling. A lot of those samples are on the website already. Some of them still to be put out there. So in the fall, we set trap nets or fyke nets and look at the panfish populations in our lakes. So that's what the majority of our fall sampling is. There's also some fall sampling on our rivers and streams, especially some of that trout work. But what we are doing at this time of year is setting those nets and looking at our bluegill and crappie populations. And so we should have some really good information available for people that want to go out pan fishing this winter.
All right, so if I had to pick one spot to go fish for some panfish tomorrow, where would that be?
Tomorrow on the 11th of November.
When it's 35 degrees outside.
Exactly. Oh, I don't know if you want to be.
Okay, so
you don't have to
Little River.
Little River. I was gonna say you don't have to be specific to the lake. You do a region.
We can bleep it out.
Oh yeah.
But no. So the reason I say that is it's a little bit larger body of water, so it's not going to as cooled off as fast as some of the smaller bodies of water. It's as far south in Iowa as you can get, so it's still warmer than anywhere else, and it's a straight shot down from Des Moines. So if I'm making a decision for tomorrow, that's the decision I'm making, because that water body is going to be warmer. The fish aren't going to necessarily have been as turned off by the change in the weather as, you know, like a a smaller system, say Beaver Lake, just
Right.
west of Des Moines. It is a little bit deeper, but that's further north. It's smaller. The cold is going to impact that system faster than it's going to impact a deeper system further south.
Because I was looking at the weather. It's winter, guys.
Yeah,
it's winter.
We're really not going to fish until we ice fish.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's looking good for ice fishing this year.
It is. I hear a lot of people up north and of northern Iowa. They're beyond excited to slowly thinking they're gonna walk on water probably within the next 2 weeks.
That'd be really early, but
Yeah.
but it's happened.
Vexilar put out a post today. One of their guys was ice fishing today,
Nice.
catching trout. Actually.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know where he was. I'm guessing it's
Probably
gotta
some
be
of those lake trout in northern Minnesota.
Yeah.
I would think so.
Northern Minnesota, southern Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you excited for ice fishing at all this year?
I love
Jeff?
ice fishing.
Okay.
So Hank talked to Hank today. He's like, "Are you going to convince those guys to come up and we'll go fishing together?"
Love
We
it.
need
So-
to.
We need to.
Yeah.
We need
Well,
to.
I mean, do we need to go up to Minnesota, or can we just go up?
You do whatever you want to do. I'm going to Minnesota.
He spends most of his time up there in the wintertime, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's got a house on
Yeah,
a lake.
I mean-
it's like
I would too if
The
I had a
whole
house
9
on the
yards.
lake.
So,
We might just have to do it this winter. Well, maybe next month, right?
Yeah, I don't
that's
take
when I'm going.
I
I'm
don't-
going in December.
I don't take many trips during the winter time.
Yeah.
So I have one trip planned already. And that's to go fish for whitefish in Sturgeon Bay
Oh,
in like 100
geez.
feet of water.
Yep.
Must be nice.
Yep.
And then, we should squeeze in a trip with Hank.
To Minnesota. I
be
would. It would be it'd be pretty fun to get up there.
It would be.
We can catch some fish that. Well, where he lives, is there a species that we can catch that we don't have here?
Tullaby.
What is that?
Tullaby.
And
It's a whitefish.
burbot
Or
too,
bur-
right?
yeah.
Burbot.
So-
That's the
you see
fish
what I'm
I
saying,
want to
though?
catch. Burbot.
So those are a couple fish that we can, of fish to catch through the ice to
Yep.
do this.
Yep.
Maybe. All right, I'll talk to the boss lady.
Yep.
We make it happen.
Maybe we just try to hitchhike with Jeff or something.
Yeah. It's kind of on my calendar.
I am excited. No, this is I think we've talked about probably like about 5 podcasts now. So we've talked about in a row. I think like we're pretty excited this year. I think last year really got us off to a good start. Like I think the year before last year, there was times where I don't know what the weather was just horrible. We fished and we didn't catch shit, and then it was just like, God, ice fishing sucks. But I think last year rejuvenated me, at least me.
Yeah.
Going into last year, I was like, whatever, ice fishing. I'll be glad when it's here.
Yeah.
But once it was here, last season was one of my best seasons
Nice.
ever.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was mine too. I mean, there was a lot of goals I set last year and I hit them, so I was like,
Awesome.
I'm pretty excited, stoked again this year. It got me rejuvenated, like I said.
That's awesome. That
Yeah.
is great.
And then to catch some possible new species, hell yeah.
Yeah,
There
new
you go.
species.
I tried to catch a new species last week. I failed.
What were you chasing?
So I was up in Northeast Iowa. Go back to this trout again and again. What's the matter with me? Anyway, so I went up to help with a brook trout stocking, and I've never caught a brook trout.
Really?
So I was like, it's a mile hike back into this place where we were shocking them. But they've taken those trout, those native brook trout, and they've stocked them in a few other small streams to have the population in more than one place in case something catastrophic happens. So I went to another one of these small streams where they have stocked brook trout in the past, so I know that they're there, and it's easy to get to. And so I'm like fishing this little stream, and it's getting dark. It's getting kind of late. And it's been a drought, so there's not a lot of water in the stream, and so you can spook them pretty easy, etc. Fishing, trying. Finally, I hook up. I'm like, yes, I finally got it. It was a little bitty brown trout. No. And that was the only one I got in that stream. But
What were you
trying.
using? What were you using?
I was using that little Mep Sagley I was saying earlier. Same kind of deal. Just using the spinner. Yep.
I'm telling you, next time, just
Worm?
bring worms. Just
I
bring
know,
worms.
I know.
All right, I'm gonna put that to the test. I think,
Yeah.
but you're right though. Worms can't go. You can't go wrong with that.
So you guys asked about some of the stuff that we're doing, and
Yes.
so I want to tell you about a particular project that we've got going on. So one of the things that happened, I believe, this week, there's a natural lake a little bit north of Ames, up actually north a couple counties by, what's the name of the town? I forget the name of the town.
North of Ames.
Yeah, Clarion. It's up by Clarion.
Okay.
Lake Cornelia, shallow natural lake.
Yes.
Has had some really significant yellow bass issues.
Yes.
You know,
like the 7 inchers. Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
7 million 7-inch.
7 million.
Yeah, actually, 7 million 4-inch yellow.
Yes, I was going to say 7 inch. I think is like the top end.
Very
Yeah.
true. You're right on that.
So we've been doing a research study on that system for a little while, and just getting the data to justify a management activity that we may undertake. Well, this week we undertook that management activity, which was to apply a pesticide, a fish killing chemical, and to eradicate that yellow bass population, or at least knock it down. So it was a low dose. So we're not trying to kill every fish in the lake, but we are trying to knock off the yellow bass. Now, the chemical that we use is rotenone, and if you get into a county where a walleye lives and you have rotenone, they will die.
Oh no. Okay.
So we know that we were going to eliminate all the walleyes that were in that system, but our goal was to get rid of that yellow bass population to allow a more natural fish community that should be inhabiting a shallow natural lake come back. So we undertook that activity earlier this week, and then we'll be coming back and doing walleye stocking in the spring and doing some replacement in that system. Now, that shouldn't have knocked off all of the bluegills or all the crappies. So what we want is that niche space, we call it in ecology, that space in the ecosystem that is being taken up by the yellow bass, and they have crowded out the other panfish species. We want those other panfish species to come back because they're the natural ones in that system and replace the yellow bass. So that's why we undertake that activity. So that's just one of those things that we're doing, and we do it at this time of year. It's getting cold, so you're not going to have a lot of warm water. You're not having those fish float up, all float to one side, be stinky for whatever. By the time, hopefully we do that this week, it's really cold, maybe we get skim ice next week, and by the time spring rolls around, most of that decomposition will have happened under the ice, and we try not to have a negative impact on the local community and the local homeowners. But yeah, that's just one of those things that we look at that system is not performing, those yellow bass are not native to that water body. They've kind of overtaken the system, pulled everything down with them, with their stunting and overpopulation, and then, try and reset that system and help it get back to what it wants to be in a more natural situation. So, yeah, that's just one of those management things that we do that not everybody hears about, not everybody thinks about, but it's a significant investment that we're making in that lake, in that community.
It makes sense because me and
we fished that.
Yeah,
place
I fished it quite a bit,
before.
and I've taken my daughters out there, and they're like, it was fine.
I have too. I tried to ice fish with them, and it was just like we're just not getting anything done.
If you want to catch fish,
I mean, if you want to catch, like you guys are saying, 4-inch fish, you can all day long.
Yeah.
It's just so that's cool. And that's a really good thing that you guys are. So my only, I guess, if you wanted to fish that lake, what would you recommend now? Because if you guys are doing a reset.
Yeah, so it's kind of like Easter Lake here in town. We drained that down, we killed that off. It takes a little while for it to come back.
Okay.
So I wouldn't go fish that system this winter or even probably next winter, whatever. Give it a couple years to come back. Now, the fish population in Easter Lake doing really exceptionally well.
See, that's what I've been hearing, but
Yeah.
I wasn't sure.
No,
Yeah, the
no.
bluegills the bluegills kind of surprised me.
Yeah.
'Cause I went fishing there for bait,
Well, we might have
and
to
we caught
bleep that
some
out.
pretty decent bluegills.
See, that's
yeah.
what I've been hearing.
But I should have saved this video or the picture coming into this, but I didn't realize we were going to talk about it. But a guy caught a fish, and to me, it looked like, I want to say it was an Oscar or a tilapia. One of those two. It was not a.
Yeah.
It was not a
Native.
native fish.
Right.
Some people were saying, "Oh, it's a hybrid bluegill." Like, no. That,
I haven't seen the picture, but we're in a larger community. Somebody had a pet that they don't want a pet anymore, and I don't want to
Kill it.
I didn't say that, but you did.
I said it.
and so they do something worse, which is release it into the wild where it really doesn't belong.
See, but I think that's the
there
thing.
is a lot of houses in that area.
Yeah.
But I think that's the thing, though. Like you're saying, that's worse than
It
they
is.
realize.
It is.
Because people
and it's illegal. I mean,
Yeah.
That's a big. Yeah, that's a big. That is truly the biggest thing. Like people don't realize. Like I don't want to kill this fish, but I'm just like whether it's like a goldfish or like you just said, Oscar or piranha. I can see it happening. Oh, I don't want to just kill it, so I'm just gonna go release it at the next closest body of water.
So, do you think that fish would survive our winter since it's typically a tropical fish?
it shouldn't, but
shouldn't.
who knows?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it can find some deep enough pocket in the lake.
Yeah. And it's eating, obviously. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
people were like, "Oh, it's some kind of bluegill hybrid." Like, no. That does not look like any bluegill hybrid that I've ever seen.
No. So, yeah, I think we're working on a quabbie right now.
Okay.
Drawing that down and,
That's right.
and doing a restoration project there. So there's lots of stuff going on.
Yeah. So how's that going? Because
Yeah.
I used to fish a quabbie quite a bit
And
actually.
me too.
Yeah, there's it's going okay. We've got a lot of work to do there. We had to draw it down. Found out that probably at some point in time over the last 20 years or whatever, there's something that has happened a little bit with the outlet, not the outlet structure, but there's a gate, and that's a little bit bent or something like that. So you can, we can kind of like pull the plug on the bottom of the lake a little bit, but I think some ice maybe heaved against that thing or something. I don't know all the details. I just know that we're going to incur a little bit more expense to fix that.
Okay.
But we've got it drained down. We're going to do some habitat work in that system, and then when it comes back, we'll have a reset fishery and vastly improve habitat. Just like we just did, we just have Hickory Grove back up on the line now. It's been refilled for a couple of years. Already 8-inch bluegill in that system after just 2 years.
Right. That's near Ames, right?
Yep. That's one of my favorite places to fish before we drained it, but it needed it. It had a bunch of siltation. We had to move a bunch of dirt around, put a bunch of new habitat in there. So yeah, really good work. That's what our lake restoration program does, and it really is a benefit to all of our anglers and water recreationalists.
Okay. I'm going to jump back to a quabbie real quick.
Okay.
I've heard people told me they have seen goldfish in a quabbie.
It's the same thing you just
Anywhere
were talking
else.
about. What's the little lake you get on the south side of the Raccoon River, like off of Southeast 9th or 14th or something? There's a little park over there.
Raccoon River Park?
No, on the south side. on the
Purple
south-
Martin.
No, you're way over in
Fort
West
Des Moines Park.
You got to come back this way, by Mullets or the Angry Goldfish. Where's the Angry Goldfish? It's right across the.
It's like a little city pond.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. That's had goldfish in it. I don't know how many times.
Yeah.
People keep throwing it in there, man.
Yeah.
But there was definitely goldfish in a quabbie. I've never seen it. I don't know.
I haven't seen them, but this doesn't. I mean, this stuff. I can't say that there were, but it doesn't.
It doesn't surprise me.
Doesn't surprise me because
Yeah.
people, just doing silly stuff.
Yeah.
How does goldfish affect a whole system? I'm just so.
It's just like a carp.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
it's like a pretty carp, pretty
Yeah,
much.
it roots in the bottom. It stirs up the sediment. It eats the vegetation that is better habitat for our native fish. It's not a good thing.
Gotcha.
not a good thing.
Don't be throwing your guys'
Right.
goldfish in the freaking water.
Yeah,
guys.
please don't. Please
Yeah.
don't. Yeah.
Okay. We're kind of getting into the downer
Yeah.
side of things.
Okay, so we were talking off camera about walleyes a little bit, and so
Yep.
one of the other things that we're doing a lot right now, so we do our walleye spawning operations in the spring, and then we grow the walleyes in the hatchery. So we, the little like fry we release in April or May. The 2-inch fish we put out in May or June. Now we're at the point that we're releasing those advanced fingerling fish that are 8 or 10 inches. So we've put thousands of those in most often our lakes that we have that we collect broodstock from. So Rathbun, Clear Lake, the Okobojies, etc. But we've also been doing this other project. So we've got our normal hatchery ponds and raceways and stuff, but we've got this recirculating aquaculture system where we can raise fish and do it. We can raise more of them kind of faster in this little bit more enclosed and controlled environment, but we're not sure how well they perform out in the wild. So we're doing this other project, and we actually stocked a whole bunch of fish, and not like in our normal broodstock lakes. So we're putting them in places like Sejima, Little River, and other systems like that where we haven't necessarily stocked so many walleyes in the past, just to see how that hatchery product will perform in the wild and to see how walleyes do in some of these systems that we haven't necessarily been stocking walleyes in the past. So doing some more stuff with that. Yeah, there's lots of cool stuff that we're doing, and most of this stuff that we're doing with database decision making. So we are looking at these systems, we're collecting data, we're performing these stockings and doing assessments to see, is this an appropriate utilization of the resources that we have available to us.
Makes sense.
Lots of solid work like that going on. Okay. We're wrapping it all up this time of year, getting ready, going to do a bunch of data analysis on these things over the winter and get ready to plan for next spring.
Okay, speaking of planning, I should have planned ahead and shot you this question before you came
This
on.
always happens. That's all right.
I just thought of something.
Okay.
So I am a big fan of blue catfish.
Yep.
And I know in the last few years we've been, or
Yep.
not we, but the Iowa DNR has been stocking them in a couple lakes in
Yep.
the state.
Yep.
Do you know what the status is with that? Like, is the Iowa DNR liking what they're seeing? And if they are they going to continue with their current stocking efforts?
It's a great question. So we started our stocking work on DeSoto Bend. So they're historically in the Missouri River, and Missouri River, DeSoto Bend is a backwater off of the Missouri River. So they had the possibility to be there. So we started with some stocking there. Since then, we have also added them to 3 Mile.
Yep.
And what we have learned is we put them in there, but they, like I was saying about the great big flatheads, sometimes they're just hard to catch and do an assessment.
Right.
And we put them in there, and then for the first 3 years, it's radio silence. We don't see them. We don't hear them. People don't catch them. And what you would normally do to catch blue catfish, you're looking for a fish this big, and they're still only this big.
Yeah.
And so as they were growing, we just really didn't know if we were successful or not, and didn't have really any idea for about 3 years. Now we're a year or two beyond that. We're into year 4 or 5. I don't remember exactly. But we're actually starting to see some of those fish, and people are actually starting to catch some of those fish. And they had to get up to somewhere above 15 inches, 20 inches before people start catching them really at all. And it just took a little while for them to get there. So we think it's successful. It's one of those things. We are not 100% sure how popular is this going to be. And if we are going to establish them, do we need to establish them separately from where we stock channel catfish? What happens if those two species start to, both be in the same system? Is it a positive? Is it negative? what are we going to do? So when we put them in 3 Mile, it was after we had done a renovation there. So we didn't have channel cats in there, so that gave us an opportunity to put those blue cats in there and for that to be something different. Okay, so now we've started to see some of the fruits of our labors there, and now we have some of these other questions that we need to ask about what do we need to do in terms of the two species coexisting. Are we being successful? Are anglers being successful? Because why put a fish in a system that nobody's going to catch?
Yep.
Like the red ears you're talking about. How often do you catch a red ear?
Not often.
Right. Okay.
Not
so
often.
why are we putting a species into a system that's going to take up biomass but is not available to the anglers? Okay. You have to have a rationale for that. Now you can catch them in the winter to a degree. You can catch them in the spring when they're spawning. But if they're unavailable to the anglers the entire rest of the year, then you got to have a really solid reason other than making it available to the angler. And most of the time when we're stocking a recreational species, it's how is this going to impact our anglers?
For sure.
So we have to look at how are these things working with our anglers and what's going to happen, from here forward. And we don't have those answers yet, but those are the things that we're trying to get answers to, so then we can make informed decisions about what to do next.
Okay.
So speaking of that, I think, was it you or me? I think we might as well talk about hybrid striped bass.
We always talk about hybrid
one of
striped
our
bass.
favorite. We got to bring it back home. So there's a body of water here locally. I think it was you that said you started catching some of these wipers with tags.
Okay.
Wait.
Yeah, we have pit tags in the wipers at.
Okay. So
it's the only place they're tagged. Okay, you can bleep it out if you want.
Yeah, we'll leave that off the table.
We might have to leave that one up. But
I never caught one, but I've heard you guys started a program where you're tagging and kind of, I guess I would say, keeping track of these fish more closely.
Well, it's in where we have the reader array, so we can see if the fish are leaving the system. So we put that in there to see what's going on with the walleyes, what's going on with the muskies. Well, we have another kind of apex predator in that system that likes to move around.
I like it.
What's going on with our hybrid striped bass? If we've got the infrastructure in place to look at what's going on with these other two species, and hybrid striped bass are in there also, well, how about we put some tags in these fish and see what happens?
Okay, so
see if they're leaving or not.
Yeah. What was the rationale behind trying to track these fish? Just to see if they're leaving the body of water.
All the walleyes that we put in, we stock there. We want them to be there. We don't want them leaving. All the muskies that we put in, we stock them there. We don't want them to be leaving. We are trying to maintain a population of hybrid or of walleyes in that system. We're trying to maintain a population of muskies in that system. Same thing with hybrid striped bass. The only ones that are in there are ones that we have stocked. We put them there because that's where we want them. If they're leaving, we should know something about that, especially if we have the reader array right there and we have the ability to have the fish in our hands, because in the spring when we're setting those nets, sometimes they swim into the nets. So we have them available, we have the tags, everything else. So we're tagging some of those fish. We've also been tagging some of when we raise them in the hatchery to be stocked, we've tagged some of those fish also that we have stocked in that system. So we have some of the larger fish, some of the smaller fish tagged. I don't think we can get away from the fact that we're talking about. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. But it's part of a research study. There's a rationale for why we're doing what we're doing, and we're trying to figure that out so we can manage that system to the best of our ability.
And it's a good local spot for us to fish. I like it.
Absolutely, it is.
It's a good body of water to fish.
There's other places locally you can catch those fish too.
Very true. Very true.
Is it too early to say anything from that study?
Yeah, we really don't know. We only started tagging those fish this past year. So
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess one of my other questions I want to ask was that, is there a species of fish that the Iowa DNR gets requests to put limits on? And the reason why I ask that, because you see it on social media, you hear people talking about like, oh, the greatest thing ever, the Okaboji, they put 15-inch limit or whatever, or Clear Lake, they just put a 15-inch
slot
limits. Now, like, what species of fish do you guys get bombarded about? Okay.
I feel like it's walleyes. I'm just
All
going to
of
jump
them?
in there.
All of them.
Okay.
The fishing
flatheads,
Yeah,
hybrid
yeah.
white
When I
birds.
was on with Spencer, it was about flatheads.
Yeah.
I've been on with you guys, it's about hybrid striped bass. When we now have a 25 fish limit on bluegills because of the same kind of thing. There are things going on in other states where they're knocking that down to 10 and 5. We hear about that. We hear about it with walleyes. It's yes. So
I'm going to have to jump off
it's
real
all
quick.
of them.
You on body?
Yeah. Broke the seal.
All right, you want to
But
take
you
a break?
can continue if you want.
No. So the reason why I truly ask that is because we see it all the time on social media.
Yes.
So
Yep.
how does the Iowa DNR deal with somebody or a couple somebody's, handful of people like, dude, you guys got to put a limit on the walleyes. You guys got to put right now. Hybrid striped bass it's no limit.
You're right.
White bass there's no limit.
The
'Cause
reason
I wish he was still here. Well,
Right.
we can ask him. And the reason being is because there's other states nearby that we go to, and they put a limit on the wipers
Yep. Well,
amount.
they put a limit on the white bass.
No, well, I have to tell you.
So if there's a limit on the wiper, it would have to be in a system where there's no white bass whatsoever. Okay,
there's a state that's close to us. I don't want to. I don't want to name. And the reason being because we had this argument. I had an argument with Kit, and there is a limit on wipers
Okay.
of over a certain size.
Right,
And
because-
then the white bass is no limit though.
Okay. So what you're saying is, let's start with, we do have a limit on white bass on the Mississippi River. It's 25
Yes.
fish. The rest of the state, we do not have that limit. The reason we don't have a limit on hybrid striped bass or white bass is, for the most part, that is an underutilized resource. We have not seen any negative impact on the overall populations of those fish due to harvest. Okay, so in general, Iowa does not overregulate. So if we are not having a negative impact on that population by allowing our anglers to harvest those fish, then we're not going to put a regulation on. That's our perspective in general. Okay, so that's just the way it is here. Okay, so in a system like Big Creek, there are both the white bass and the hybrid striped bass. If you're going to put a limit on hybrid striped bass, you're only going to do that for fish above, say, 20 inches.
Could we do that?
We could do that. Okay. Now you have that cutoff because the maximum size of a white bass is about 18, 19 inches.
For sure.
So, and we don't see negative impacts on the white bass population, so we don't see that there's a strong rationale for needing to put a limit on those fish. Now, there are hybrid striped bass in Big Creek where they are stocked that are mixed in. So, and people will tell you can tell the difference, but that's not everyone can, and the misidentification is high. So, I think the rationale is to leave it as is for no limit underneath. Now, could we put a limit on hybrid striped bass above 20 inches? That could be done. Okay. Is there a need? Some people might say there is. Some people might say there isn't.
I would say there's, by the amount of people we speak with, and even this guy right here, they would I think they would crack some beers, jump for joy if you put a hybrid striped bass, 20-inch limit, like you were saying. White bass, no limit, whatever the case may be. But if you catch a wiper that's 20 inch and above,
one over. I mean, I'm just throwing stuff out there.
I think that would. Where's that state? The state that we fished at. What's the limit on that?
I think it's just 5 hybrids over.
Okay.
Yeah, just 5 hybrids.
That's
period.
the limit. And then white bass unlimited, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But how do they decide what's a hybrid if it's above 20
I think
inches?
it's above 20 inches, right?
I don't think
I don't
there's
know.
a length or
see,
anything.
there you
It
go.
just says unlimited white bass and 5 hybrid striped bass.
Once they get somewhere between 15 and 17 inches, then you can kind of tell if the tooth
sure.
patch is splitting or not or whatever. But yeah, it's that is a regulation that might confuse our
Right.
anglers,
True.
and
Very
we strive to not, we're in general try not to be the ones out to get you, you know.
Yeah.
So that is not a regulation that we would probably try to move forward.
Right.
Because that would go against kind of our regulatory philosophy.
Yeah, because I remember when we first started talking to you, it always comes back to the rule book. Ours is like this.
Ours is like this.
Yeah, this. We don't want to get to a point where it's like this.
Right.
I said that, but then other people were like, "No, we want it like that." I go, "Well, you're like the rare ones that like it like that, because not everybody likes it like that."
And we've talked about this stuff, dude. The amount of data that you have to collect to be able to justify a regulation change is really, really significant. I mean, we're going to have to invest a significant amount of time and resources to collect the data, look at the populations, and determine what's going on in order to be able to justify that regulation being in place. Okay. We're just not going to do it willy-nilly, because that also goes against our philosophical stance on regulation. If you're going to do it, there has to be a solid reason, and you have to have the data to back it up.
Makes sense.
Right. Okay. So here's my biased, unapologetic opinion. Like, if it were up to me, being super biased towards these fish, it'd be 1 over, I don't know, 20 inches. Doesn't matter if it's wiper, white bass, whatever. Because, like you said, general public can't tell the difference. So, okay, just 1 over. Doesn't matter what it is, just because I want to catch big fish. And that's just my biased opinion.
And that's valid.
Right.
For you, but
for you, that's
but
the biggest thing.
There's a ton of data that we would have to collect to be able to justify that, and I'm not sure that at this point it hasn't risen high enough that we feel the need to invest those resources to make that determination.
Sure.
That doesn't mean that that's wrong. It just means that we only have a limited number of resources, and that's not the priority right now.
Yeah, and it basically is me pushing my ethics on other people. I mean, I'll admit it.
Understandable.
And we have 300,000 to 500,000 anglers that we have to.
Yeah, you can't just think about what I want.
Oh, you can. It's just.
I mean, you can, but.
So with the new regulation of the walleyes and whatever they put, I think it was up in Clear Lake or whatever.
Yeah.
So how long? So once you set a regulation, something like that, how long does it take before you realize, or when the Iowa DNR, like stat wise, number wise, do you see the difference made?
I would argue that we see that right away, because what we're doing is there's a suite of fish that are broodstock. So we've only done that really on our broodstock lakes. Okay. And what we're doing is we're protecting those fish that are most valuable for us to be collecting, harvesting the eggs from, and then moving that population forward with our ability to stock from those fish. So we generally see that pretty immediately.
So you would see the difference instantly once you put that regulation in.
Right, because however many fish that were in that system that were going to be harvested, and we have a creel, so we know roughly, historical averages what that would be. But those fish are now not being harvested, so now they're staying in the system versus being removed from the system.
Can we just throw that in for wipers for like 1 year? I'm asking that because can we just do it just for 1 year just to see where it's at instantly?
But that's the other, we don't know how many wipers there are in Big Creek.
That's true.
Okay? We don't. We would have to, number one, we'd have to start with how fast are they growing, how big are they getting, what are their growth rates, what's the population, and we have a creel going on in there, so we would have some kind of idea on what the harvest rates are for that system. But there's just a whole lot of components to that we would need to consider as we would move, if we were to move forward on something like that.
Okay. So with the creel surveys for the hybrid striped bass at that lake, there is some harvest that is being recorded in those creel surveys?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
I'm going to say yes, because if we we just step back and think about that lake, there's a lot of white bass. There's a lot of
for sure.
hybrid and striped bass. People are catching those fish. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's certainly, my guess is yes, there's harvest of those fish in that system at this time.
Okay, because we've had friends.
I've got that. If I go back home to my computer, I could punch it up and look at what the creel survey results are, because I've got access to that, like in real time. Just like our fish survey, we're doing the creel on the same kind of tablets, etc. But I don't know.
Yeah, a couple of friends of our show, they were like, yeah, we talked to this creel guy for.
It's the Bucket Boys.
Yeah, you're gonna have to bleep. Either me or you is gonna have to bleep out this word a lot.
Oh, okay.
And they were saying like, oh, we talked to the creel survey guy and there's zero harvest, which seems kind of crazy. But I guess if that particular guy doesn't hear about fish being caught on that particular day, that's all he can go off.
Yeah,
of.
the survey person can only go by whatever somebody tells. What they caught,
what they see, and what they're told.
Yeah.
That's all. Yeah, that's all we can do.
So quit lying, fools. Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, for me, as someone who's kind of peeks behind the scenes a little bit with doing this podcast with someone like yourself, it's like, why would you lie about what you're catching if people are doing that?
I think the only reason why people would lie is because they don't want people to know about their spot or their hot spot. You know what I'm saying? But my thoughts, like you're just saying, it's not going to change anything. It's actually going to help if you're actually honest. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Well, why would you lie to the creel guy? Is my question.
I think honestly, because once you get asked, people get nervous. They don't want to tell the truth because they're just like, I didn't catch anything. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, so here, for all our listeners, when a creel guy comes up to you, asks what you caught, show him your fish so he can take all his measurements, numbers, whatever he needs.
Or her.
Yeah. Or her. Yeah, don't.
If you're telling us there's no harvest of white bass or hybrid striped bass, then that's going to be the information that we use. Well, we don't need to regulate that. There's nobody catching it.
It's true.
Especially if you want something done about a particular species or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. Man, how much time do we have?
I don't know.
What time is it?
It is 6:37.
We might have to
probably should.
Yeah, we probably should cut it off.
I got one last question.
Last one.
So the same body of water, I think the last, maybe a month or two ago, people were noticing a lot of dead white bass.
Yep.
So there's a virus that affects white bass.
Yes,
what is that? How does that mean? It's the end for white bass in this lake, or
no? So that's happened probably 10 years ago, and it happened a couple months ago, and the white bass were just fine. It tends to. We haven't confirmed that it is that particular virus. We took samples the last time 10 years ago, or whatever, tried to get it sent in, tried to confirm. They just couldn't figure it out. We know most likely what it is. It really only affected one of the size classes. Like all of the white bass that were dead were the same size, same age, basically.
Wow, that's weird.
Yeah, so it oftentimes when this happens, it's kind of the fish are a little bit stressed and something else is happening to them, and it makes them susceptible to this virus that's probably already in the population. And I don't know all of the particulars of it, but the big fish didn't die, the ones a little littler than that didn't die. It's just some kind of overcrowding, something, stress on that particular age class. I'm confident it'll be fine as we move forward.
Do you think it's quite to the extent that it was 10 years ago, or
I think it was actually less this time.
Less? Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Because I think actually,
from what I heard,
I think I do remember the last time it happened. I think you kind of noticed as an angler if that was the fish you were trying to catch.
Yeah.
Because I remember we weren't really catching that much white bass, and then these last few years, whoa, the white bass are kind of back. And then I heard a whole bunch were dying again. I'm like, oh no, it's like the previous time, but it doesn't seem as bad.
No.
It's always good, man. Been fun, man.
Always good to see you guys.
Always good to have Jeff
Always
on.
a ton of info when Jeff's here.
You gotta. This is one of the things, dude. Every time I have you or Tyler Stubbs, having you guys on makes me re-listen to the podcast over and over.
Wow.
It really does.
Well, I appreciate that.
And it's
Thank you.
just to learn, like you're saying, it's just so much information. I just want to learn a little bit more. Kit, you got anything else for Jeff?
Okay, so if anybody in our audience wants to reach out to you with any burning questions, where can they do that?
Jeff, Jeff Kopaska, Kopaska at dnr.iowa.gov.
Okay, yeah, we'll put that down in the description and stuff.
Yep.
For sure. Huge shout out. Thank you so much, Jeff, for just coming and hang out with just two idiots who love to fish, love to drink beer, but like Fishing Kid always said, man, it's just so much knowledge that you bring to us, and then you give us the other side of the Iowa DNR instead of us sitting here just thinking, why don't they do this, or what? It really does. I truly appreciate having you and having the Iowa DNR just be on our podcast. It really opened up our minds and to really understand the thought process of how things are done.
Thank you. That's why I'm happy to come here and do this, is because we're not trying to be the wizard hiding behind the curtain. It's like we work for the public, we work for the anglers, and we just want to share that information and let you know what we're up to and try to do our best for you.
And truly appreciate that, and then just like you said, so much knowledge that we get from you guys, and I love it, man, because I think it does help me become a better fisherman.
That's the goal. Shorten the time between bites. That's our goal.
There you guys go. So, and we promise we got to get on the ice this year with you and Hank. We got to do it this year. We'll make it happen. I'll figure it out some way or another. Got to make it happen. It'll be a good time.
I don't have to convince anybody except for myself. Oh yeah.
Must
Get her
be
done.
nice. Must be nice.
Yeah.
Hey, I was able to convince the boss lady to let me out tonight. So there
Awesome.
we go.
Baby steps.
Baby steps. But other than that, everybody, don't forget, go check out Fishing Kid's YouTube channel. Get his ass up to 3,000 subs. He's getting closer and closer and closer.
Creeping.
Don't forget, check out Mod Pot Fishing. Hey, I'm over 500, I think.
Oh,
hey,
creeping.
creeping. And then don't forget, guys, feel free, leave a review, good or bad, hopefully good, on the podcast. Share with everybody else. Appreciate you guys if you guys listened to this far. Other than that, man, I think get out there, because pretty soon it's going to be ice. So if you're in Central Iowa in the Midwest, ice is coming here probably in a couple of weeks, couple of months, who knows?
Yeah, who knows with our weather?
Right.
Never know. But get out there and fish, guys.
Yeah,
Take
you
care.
got anything else for us, Jeff?
Nope. Let's get out there and fish. Have some more fun.
All right,
Sounds
cool.
good. Awesome. Till next time, guys.
All right, see ya.